everybody. Welcome back to Vino with the Romeros. My name is Johnny,
Nimjan, of course.
and today, we are going to get started with our episode called
The dark past.
The Dark Past. So, in this episode, we're going to just kind of go over our past a little bit, what it was like before coming out and kind of how our lives changed afterwards, and kind of see where we've gone and how we've come along and just how wonderful our lives are now.
Yeah.
And for today's wine, we're going to be drinking Stories and Spells. It's a red blend by Wicked Hour. It is a California wine, and it is flavored with ripe blackberry and black cherry, fruit intertwined with dark chocolate, espresso, and roasted oak. It is an intense blackberry, black cherry, and full bodied wine. I was trying to
A
find
lot of black.
information.
Love it.
I was trying to find some information about what it would pair well with, but I do think it's one of the newer wines, so there's not really a whole lot of information about it. So we're gonna go ahead and try it and let you guys know what we think about it.
Yeah. So let's definitely pop. That sounded tight.
I like it tight.
Oh.
It's okay.
Everything's tight. Tight pants, tight shirts.
Tight robes, apparently.
I know. Alrighty. So, my love.
Yes.
So before coming out, before you opened up with to everyone, how was it before all that?
So, I mean, I think obviously growing up, I kind of knew I was different, right? I talked about that in one of the other episodes. But cheers.
I contacted bad sex for 7 years. We don't want that bad sex.
Okay. Again, I knew I was different. And I dated girls when I was younger. I think I only dated 3, if I'm being quite honest.
So you're a lesbian.
No, I was straight.
Oh.
Ooh, not me
Oh
being
my
straight.
God. Ew.
Ooh. But I dated these 3 girls, and each one taught me something a little bit different about myself. And I just know that it just wasn't me. I think my final girlfriend was in 8th grade. And I was just kind of like, yeah, this chick was crazy. 2, I didn't like anything about a girl. I didn't want to fondle her. I didn't want to kiss her. I didn't want to touch her. I didn't even want to hug her. So I kind of knew that I was obviously different. Um, I was I dealt with a lot of depression kind of growing up, and I always kind of kept it to myself. One, because I always felt like my sister's feelings were probably more overlooked than mine was. I have 5 older siblings, and they're all girls, and being the only boy, I think there was a expectation that was set by my family on, how I needed to act, how I needed to be, what I needed to do, and I didn't live up to those expectations. I didn't live up to the normal expectations of a man of, wanting to play basketball and wanting to play baseball. I loved soccer and I liked playing soccer. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, I was in a gym full of boys. Whatever. PE was awesome growing up, but, I did get bullied a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I think, although me and you were only 4 years apart, like in those 4 years, a lot happened, and it was more normalized growing up than it was before. And I think, I felt like I had to hide everything, right? So I remember I remember when I came out to my mom. So I was working at IHOP because they hired 14, 15-year-olds. And my friend at the time, her dad was the general manager. And so, she kind of helped me get a job there, working there. I started paying my own bills. And, um, I come to find out that she was a lesbian. And she is a hardcore lesbian to this day. And she's got the short hair like we do. Like, she lived up to that expectation. And she was a
She's a
really
butch queen.
she was, and she was a really good friend, that I needed at that time in my life. And although we like fell our separate ways and don't talk anymore, like I do still think of her every now and then.
Yeah.
But I think she kind of helped me realize that, like, hey, it's okay, because I thought everything bad in the world was going to
Yeah.
happen to me. I didn't come from like a religious family. My dad's side of the family was very Catholic. My mom's side of the family very Christian. My mom has a twin sister, and her siblings were all very Christian like. Um, and so I just felt like I would never be accepted anywhere. So I remember the day that I came out to my mom. And mind you, I never talked about my feelings.
Hmm.
So it was hard for me to talk about them back then. And now I'm like an open book. But I wrote down everything that I wanted to say to my mom. And I remember being at work, and I think it was a weekend.
Yeah.
And I had texted her and I said, hey, like after work, can we go out to eat? Or can I take you out to eat or whatever? And immediately, obviously, she thought something was wrong, because that's just how moms are. They're
Hmm.
gonna think the worst and think that, oh my God, what's going on? Like, why do you have to talk to me? Like, are you on drugs? And of course, it's kind of
Lots
parents
of
always
drugs.
first things that I think they always think of. It's either drugs or you knocked somebody up,
Yeah.
which obviously it was neither one. But I remember specifically that I wrote everything down, and we drove to Fuddruckers by Arrowhead Mall.
What is that?
It's a burger joint where you kind of like build your own burger.
Okay.
Um, and I remember it was so quiet driving there, and I kept trying to like break the ice, but not actually tell her yet what I wanted. One,
Hmm.
because I didn't want to like ruin the meal,
Yeah.
but two, I just felt like I was too scared. I was so scared. And so we got there, we ate, and while we were eating, she's like, okay, tell me what's wrong. Tell me what's wrong. Mind you, I had like the little note in my pocket, like ready to
Hmm.
give to her, because I was like, I'm not going to be able to like tell her this.
Yeah. At least she can read it.
Yeah, so that's what I thought, right? And so, we ate, and I was like, I really don't want to ruin the meal. Like, let's just talk afterwards. And she, we, as soon as we sat down in the car, okay, tell me what's wrong. And I was like, I just want to talk to you. And, I didn't know exactly how to say what I wanted to. So I kind of wrote everything down to kind of make it easier. And I was like, and I want you to read it. And she was like, no, you're going to read it to me. And my heart fell to my stomach. Like I was just like, "Ugh," like I didn't want to physically have to say it. And back then, I thought that like, okay, maybe I like boys, but maybe I like girls.
Yeah.
I was thinking like that in between of maybe I'm not fully gay, maybe I'm just half gay. And I know that I started reading the letter, and I started crying. Like as soon as I got to the first sentence, I started crying and bawling my eyes out. And we lived in Surprise at this time. And I remember like on the way, like I was crying and reading it, and she pulled over at this park. And this park was like down the street from our house, but kind of maybe like a half mile walk, a little more
Yeah.
than a half mile. And I remember her just looking at me and being like, where did I mess up? Where did I go wrong with you? And I didn't know how to feel, because I was like, you didn't do anything wrong. Like, this is just who I am. And, at 14 years old, for someone to come out and be like, oh, I'm gay or I'm bisexual, back then it was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And now it's like there's kids in sixth and seventh grade that are, oh yeah, I'm gay, I'm into girls, like blah blah blah. Like, cool, that's good for you. I'm happy that you know who you are. But it was always
It wasn't
you,
okay back
it
then.
wasn't, and it was always you don't know who you are.
Yeah.
How do you know if you've never done it with a girl?
Yeah.
I'm one of the golden gays. I've never had sex with a girl. I've never done anything sexual with a girl. And I can honestly say, like, I will never do that. It's just not who I am. It's not what I see myself doing. And so we were at this park, and, she basically told me to get out of the car. And she's like, get out. And I was like, what do you mean get out? Like, we're almost home. She said, get out of the car. So I'm over there at the park crying my eyes out, not knowing what to do, not knowing what's going to happen. Am I going to get kicked out? Am I going to not have a place to live anymore? Is my family going to accept me? What's going on? And I remember walking home thinking every bad thing that's ever happened to me. And that trumped it. That trumped everything. It was almost like somebody had ripped my heart out and just threw it on the ground when I'm just trying to be who I am. And I thought depression had been bad before that,
Mhm.
but it only got worse because at that moment I was like, I might as well just end my life now. Those thoughts had always been in my mind, but I had never once thought about actually physically doing anything. It was always just in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
So I walk home, and my mom was married to this guy, and he had four kids of his own. And then there was me and my two sisters living in the same house. So there were, seven of us kids plus the two of them. And I remember getting home and everyone was gone. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know. Nobody was answering their phone. My mom wasn't answering her phone. So I took a shower. I went to bed not knowing what was going to happen when they came home. I remember waking up the next day. I woke up earlier than everybody else and I left to walk to school because I was like, I don't want to be seen with anybody. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I went to high school with my mom's husband's son at the time, and we never really got along. I mean, there's a past to that story, um, but we just stopped getting along basically. And I remember that basically my mom, I think, had gone to my grandparents' house at the time when my grandma, my grandpa were still alive, and basically told them like, I don't know where I did wrong, like I don't understand what happened. And then my mom kept threatening me to be like, you need to tell your dad. Like you need to tell him. Like this is what you're choosing to do. This is what you need to tell him. And I was like, no, I don't want to. I will tell my dad when I'm ready to tell my dad, not when you tell me to.
Yeah.
And I remember I didn't come out to my dad until I think I was like 21. So I hid it from him for about a good 7 years. So I think he knew. Absolutely, I think he knew. Um, but at the end of the day, I didn't want to tell him until I was on my own. I was
Mhm.
stable, and I thought I was happy. And I think that was what was best for me at the time. And I remember we ended up moving houses, and we ended up staying at this other one. And I think my mom's husband at the time, his son had moved out. And basically, I had graduated high school, and it was always told to us growing up, if you go to college, you don't have to worry about paying bills. You're going to be
Mhm.
under our house, whatever. And I remember that rule had changed. It was you're going to go to college, you're going to pay bills, you're going to go to school, you're going to do everything that you have to do and then some. And I remember arguing with my mom about it. And it was, if you don't like it, there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, if that's what you're choosing to do,
Yeah.
then absolutely.
Exactly.
I'm not going to be able to change your mind. I'm not gonna, you're at this point, because your husband is telling you to do something, you're gonna do it when that has never been the rule for us growing up
No.
in your house. And so I left, and I was working at, the retail job at the grocery store. And I remember I basically didn't have anywhere to go. Thought I was going to be able to move with my friend, and that just didn't happen. And so I think I lived in my car for 2 months, 3 months. And I would still drive to work, and I would shower before work, and I'd go to work, do what I had to do, and I would leave, and I would find a place to stay in my car. Um, that was where I kind of drew the line, and I was like, I want nothing to do with my family anymore. I think I went almost 14 years without really engaging or talking to anybody in my family, both sides, if I'm being honest. My dad had always tried, and my mom had always tried, but it's just not what I wanted. And that's the point in my life where I felt like, it was time for me to grow up, and for me to figure out my life and what I wanted to do. And I think looking back at it, if I would change anything, I probably wouldn't. But I think I would learn how to deal with things differently. I remember I tried taking my own life 2 times. Um, I just didn't care anymore. I got in a car wreck, and it was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to be alive anymore, so I gave up. I wasn't drinking or anything like that. I just had that.
I don't
I
know why
just
this
had
is
that.
getting me.
I just had that split moment in my mind,
Oh
and
my
it's funny because
love.
like I joke about it a lot now, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, oh, like what if I just eat on the freeway, just eat? But that's what happened. I yeeted a little too much, and I got in that car accident. Luckily, nothing ever happened to me, but if something had happened, would anybody have known? Because I didn't talk to anybody. No one would have known. They would have found it on the news. It would have
Yeah.
just been some guy, and they never would have looked past that.
They wouldn't know what was going on or what was the story behind it.
Exactly. And I feel like my depression got worse. I would say it got worse after I came out. And I dated my exes, and obviously I dealt with the depression through those relationships that we kind of talked about. And I think it really changed when me and you kind of got back together. But even when we were together, I still dealt with depression, and you knew that.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was before the wedding, or was it
It
after
was
the wedding? It
after.
was after the wedding.
Yeah.
I remember you walked in on me just sitting on the tub of the shower,
Crying.
crying because I didn't know what to do anymore. I started thinking about the future, and I started worrying, and I got life insurance plans on myself,
Yeah.
and I wanted to make sure that you're covered in the future, and I want to make sure that you have a happy life even after I pass. And it's sad to say that I think about that, but it's something that I think about every day, because I feel like when I'm gone, yeah, you'll have Henry, and you'll have Antonia, and you'll have the friends that we met along the way, but you're not going to have me anymore. And that's a terrible thought to go through your mind. And I know that you get upset when I talk about it, because I'm trying to think of the future, and I'm trying to make sure that you're covered and have to worry about no bills in life anymore. And I want you to travel, and I want you to see the world, and I want you to do everything that your heart desires, even if I'm not there. And it sucks because I want to do all of those things with you.
Mhm.
And I just feel like at that moment when I had those thoughts when you walked in on me, I was so scared that I was going to do something that I remember asking you because we have like a single blade razor that I use to kind of do my
Yes.
lineup. And I remember asking you to hide it. I was like, I need you to hide it because I can't trust myself with it.
And to
And
this day, I can't find the blade. I hid it well, by the way.
no, I found it.
Oh.
I use it now,
No.
so it's in the drawer. But but I just remember like I went through such a dark time where I was so stressed out, and we had a lot going on.
Yeah.
You know what
Oh,
I
there was a
mean? There's a
lot.
lot going on with our families, and there's always going to be something going on. But at the end of the day, you're the one that I go to when I have a problem, even though you think I like yelling at you and it's a hobby of mine.
It is a hobby.
But I always go to you because you're the one person that I can talk to and never get judged.
I love you.
I love you. Not getting emotional,
I
guys. Sorry.
know.
All right, so now
Mm,
you tell me,
my
how was
love.
it before and how is it different now?
I mean, definitely growing up, it was very hard, even though I put on this poker face, like face going on. I didn't know I was gay. I mean, I knew that I was gay. I just didn't know because again, I was the older sibling. I had no one else to look like up to. Um, Growing up, I did had like a very rough childhood where nobody really knew. Um, Nobody really knew what really like went through my head,
And
or
what was going on behind closed
yeah.
doors?
So nobody knew much of that. It's like just whatever I presented or spoke about, I always carried on a smile and just made it seem like every day was a beautiful day. Like I was just happy, joyful, and just like there was not a bother or a care in my life. Um, so I was just, yeah, just putting on this poker face. And when I was, I believe, 5 to 7 years old, I was addicted to cocaine. And I didn't know that until I got older.
Hmm.
It put me through depression. Um, Looking back, it's like all those nosebleeds that I was receiving were just from that drug.
Yeah,
Drug up my nose. It just made me feel some type of way. And um, it's just like an addiction that I had, that I was given when I was a child.
yeah.
Um, it wasn't by my mom, definitely by someone else.
Hmm.
It was just very hard at that time. And during that time as well, that's when I was like raped and molested by, of course, by like one of my dad's friends, some of our family member. I had no idea what it was or what was
You had no idea what was
happening.
going on.
No, I had no idea. Um, so it just tended to happen, and I didn't even know how to talk about it. I couldn't express it because I had no one to look up to. My mom was always at work, my dad was always at work and drunk, and of course all cracked out. So I had no one. And my siblings were small, so they were tiny.
Yeah.
So all that was going on to the point where I didn't know who I was. I had no one by my side. I was just very lonely. I couldn't express my feelings and emotion. All pretty much I did was just go to the shower and just cry. I usually cried at night alone. I used to spend hours in the restroom just crying, looking in the mirror, just telling myself like, who am I? Um, what just happened? Is that okay?
Yeah,
And
because
I
at that
was,
point you didn't know
yeah,
what was right. You didn't know what
and
was wrong.
and I was just like 5 or 7 years old, just looking in the mirror answer, like trying to answer these questions. And then when years went by, I, my depression started to get worse to the point where I had no idea how to express my emotions, express my feelings, like just express my thoughts. I was just so used to the harmful environment of my mom being not my mom not being able to take care of herself mentally or physically, and then my dad having like this drug addiction and making it seem like everything was all right. I've seen fights 24/7, arguments happening.
Yeah.
It's like arguments just like brings back triggers or memories. It's just very soft. Um so it's just like just growing up in that environment that definitely did not help my case. And um when I started to turn 14, I got into harming myself. Every emotion that I felt, I had to go into the shower and just harm myself, because that was the only relief, the only stress, the only feeling I actually felt besides darkness and cold and going outside. Even though when the sun is bright, it felt cloudy,
Yeah.
dark. I couldn't even like I couldn't even see the sun of how cloudy it was in my head.
Hmm.
And every day I just showed my face of happiness and joy, not realizing that I'm drowning inside, and like my insides were dead.
Yeah.
My heart didn't even exist. I cared for others, but I never cared for myself.
Yeah.
And going from harming, when I turned 15, I overdosed at school. I took 13 of my mom's sleeping pills um, in class, and I told my classmates, and they saw me doing it. I even told them before I took it that
Mm.
I was going to do that. They tried to stop me, but that didn't work because I took those pills.
Yeah.
And when I took that, immediately, if it wasn't for them, they immediately told the teacher that I took some pills in front of everyone. They rushed me to the nurse's office. They called the ambulance. All I remember was that I was getting very hot. I was getting very hot, and I didn't feel my body. I couldn't control my body
Mm. You felt numb, like you couldn't do anything.
because I was falling asleep.
Yeah.
And when I remember the nurse picking me up from the chair, making me to walk, and I just kept falling over. So she laid me down, and after she laid me down, I I don't know where I felt like I blinked, but I know I passed out. I felt the ambulance, um, like the ambulance was there. The people came in, started like taking care of me, started like checking and asking me all these questions, and all I remember was having no control of my body and just swinging. My body was twitching, it was reacting
So you
to
were
the
fighting them.
yeah. So I was fighting them without even acknowledging or knowing what was going on. I mean, looking back, it's like I remember it, I just don't remember like I just can't remember the movements that I was doing because I had no control or memories of those. All I
Yeah.
remember is just my hands, and I was just tweaking out. I pushed them over, knocking over beds and walls and just everything. And I blacked out.
Hmm.
And then I remember being in the ambulance, and then I blacked out. And all I remember was laying down, but then magically felt like I was okay.
Yeah.
I remember like they were pushing me down. Um, like we got to the hospital, and I remember just trying to open my eyes, but I couldn't, and I just see like these lights from the ceiling, just going by, to the point where I no longer was able to open my eyes.
So you remember
Or
being like on a gurney and they were kind of like rolling you to the hospital.
yeah. And after that, I had no pain, no feeling, and no memory of that moment except when I saw this very bright, very like a very clear, cool light, and it felt very like soothing.
Hmm.
And like back then, I've never really felt that before. Besides that, all I remember was just like a big bright light, and it was just really like comforting. The comfort that I've never received growing up, and I don't know why. Like I was hearing like voices, and the
Hmm.
more voices I heard, the more I realized that the light was getting further and further. And after that, I started to feel pain.
Hmm.
I felt pain on my back. I felt pain on my body. And all I remember was like opening my eyes and just seeing like someone just like on top of me, because it seemed like they was trying to like bring me back, or
CPR or something.
yeah, like that's all I remember from that.
Yeah.
I went from like feeling something so soothing, so comforting, to something like very dark, and like I yeah, like it was just like just that little moment. And then from there I felt again that pain, and then from there I passed out again. Like I went like they I don't know what happened. All I remember was going in and out in my sleep, and um they pumped my stomach. They did everything that they could trying to keep me going, because the pills that I took were 500 milligrams each, and I took 13 of them.
Yeah.
So it was a lot for for me and for anyone really.
Yeah.
And then after that, all I remember was being in bed, and the first thing I did when I rolled over and I saw my mom is not even ask, "How are you?" "I'm sorry." My dumbass just asked, "Where's my phone?" I didn't even bother to ask my family how they were. I've never seen my mom so worried in my life growing up like that. She cried. Literally, like just watching her and seeing her face the way that she was like broke me.
Hmm.
So after all that, it's like they took me for a facility, and I was there for 2 weeks and 2 days.
Hmm.
And after that, it's like um I was under surveillance because I attempted suicide. Um Luckily it was unsuccessful. And but either way, it's like my brain was still so fogged up from the medication or for the pills that I took, and I just didn't know what was really going on.
Yeah.
Um, but after I came out, while I was there, I that's when I told my mom everything. I told her that I was raped, molested, and when she found out, she broke down.
Hmm.
She asked who it was, and all I remember telling her was, "It's okay," which was not.
Yeah.
And I kept telling her, like, "Mom, it's okay." She was like, "Mijo, no, it's not." It's like, "How come you didn't tell me earlier?" Because I had no one to talk to. And when I told her, she reported it to the cops. The cops said that it was too long that
Yeah.
happened. There was nothing for them to do.
Yeah.
And when that happened, it was just very, very dark after that, too. I mean, a huge relief off my chest. But it was just very dark. But after I came out of the facility, I ended up getting this anger and still the self-harm.
Mhm.
And I I actually hit depression as much. Like I hit depression hard.
Mm.
Um, so when I ended up getting pretty much all that, um, it got worse when my family was asking me who it was that did that to me.
Yeah, because at
And
that point, you were kind of trying to move on from it, and they were bringing everything back.
well, that and they were trying to figure out who it was.
Mhm.
And I told my mom. My mom never told anyone. And so when they were asking me that, I was like, dude, it's like it was literally one of your kids.
Yeah.
And they all started blaming me. It was my fault. My fault for getting raped. It was my fault that it happened.
Yeah.
My fault that I got molested.
Meanwhile, you're 5 or 7 years old.
Yeah, well, now that happened, and everyone's like, what, older, like 15, 17, 18
Yeah.
years old. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So, yeah, they started blaming me for it. I'm not going to say which side of the family, but it's a family that I don't like. So,
Yeah.
they can all kiss their asses. Um, but yeah, it was just all that happened. The anger issues were just incurring like constantly to the point where I just threw the biggest fit and I just said all these hurtful things. And there was times when I used to get like so mad, I would just hold my breath until I passed out
And so this was all meanwhile before you
before I
came
came
out.
out.
Okay.
So I was like, I just didn't know what was going on. It was just this and that, and just like losing my mind.
Mm.
And then I went to anger management,
Mm.
and of course, I failed the first course. So I had to go back again. I was under all these like depressants, like antidepressants.
Antidepressants.
So I was under that, and that didn't do well to me because some of them put you to sleep, and I was unable to take some sleeping pills or anything that make me drowsy or
Yeah.
sleepy,
Well, yeah, because
just
you're
because
on
the
watch or
the
something.
the medical or the chemicals from the pills that I took previously were still in my system. They were strong to the point where like I couldn't control my body.
Yeah.
So the doctors told me to stay away from those for the moment. But then I was taking all these medications, trying to like trying to get me stabled, and unfortunately, none of them worked. Um, but it did take some like trying to like work on my own
Mhm.
and not having to worry about what others thought or these medications, and canceling did not do shit for a bit. But once I like let them open me up, I felt at ease. I felt like I was able to talk about my problems and issues without feeling judged or regrets of what I've said, of opening up of what happened. And I felt more at ease and more control
Mhm.
of my own life than others controlling me.
Yeah.
Um, but everything started to come together when when I turned 16. I was dating guys in the down low, and I
Mhm.
was posting them on Facebook.
Oh.
And I had my family on Facebook.
Oh.
I knew that they were gonna ask me. I knew they were on there.
That was kind of your way of slowly easing into
Yes.
it. Yeah.
So all I remember was in bed, and my mom bust in the room, and just straight up asked me, "Mijo, are you gay?"
Mhm.
I was like, I think I'm gay or bisexual. She's like, why didn't you tell me? I was like, because I was scared.
Yeah.
She was like, Mijo, I was like, I love you. Like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
if you're
Your mom is
gay,
very accepting now.
it's like, I don't care if you're gay, straight, bi, whatever
Yeah.
you are. Like, I don't care. It's like, I love you. And I'm always going to love you. That's never going to change.
Yeah.
And I remember asking her, like, is that bad that I'm like this? She's like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, that is okay. Not realizing that I could have came out sooner, saved all this
Yeah.
hustle and like everything. And from there, it's like, yeah, I was like, once she asked me and I told her, it was easy, but it did take my mom a while to feel comfortable.
Yeah, because it's something that again back then it wasn't okay.
No.
And I will say your mom is very accepting.
She is. I mean, she doesn't care if you're trans, if
Yep.
you're gay, bi, lesbian.
Yeah.
It's like she would love anyone as much as she did before,
Yeah. Exactly.
if not even more. Because now,
Exactly. You're being yourself.
yeah,
So then after you came out, how was it?
after I came out, it was good. I think it was more of like trying to figure myself out.
Mm-hmm.
What I liked, what I didn't like, what I was into, what I wasn't into. My type, not my type. It was just, I don't know, just exploring. Now
Yeah.
that I'm out, new world. Um, the school definitely saw me different, but again, it was more of like, I don't care of what they thought or what they said.
What do
If
you
I
mean by
was,
that though? Like what how do they look at you different?
because everyone thought I was like, I wouldn't say straight. They all knew there was something going on,
Mm-hmm.
but because I dated all these girls, I was like, hanging out with all these girls and just like doing all these things and just spending time with them and then giving them the boyfriend fantasy that these straight bitches couldn't give, but it's fine. I was always like the boyfriend that will gift because
Yeah,
that's my love language.
it
I
is.
love
It
gifting.
is.
Like I
Yes.
don't ask for anything. I'd rather gift.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I
I
was
still like
doing.
that.
Yeah. So that's what I was doing, and then just when I came out, it was like a shock for everyone. I was like, whoa. And then people were like, "Oh no, don't get around because he'll start flirting with you." I'm like, first of all, you're not my fucking type.
Yeah.
It's
And
like second,
I
it's
think
like
that's
you're
the
not even.
hardest thing
Yeah,
about being gay is that like then you start losing all these friends. One, because they start having a crush on you when you're like, I never really liked you like that. Especially girls.
yeah.
I lost girlfriends because of that. And then, all these guys think that we're gonna start hitting on them. Bitch, you ain't nobody's type. But like,
I'm
why
sorry,
is that the first conclusion that they come to?
I'm sorry, but if a gay guy does not find you attractive, nor a woman, you have no room to speak.
Exactly. 100% agree with that.
It's like, yeah, it's like if because no, like nobody cares about. I mean, there's people out there that care about looks, and that's
Yeah.
it. But if you don't have the physical appearance, you're going to have the personality. You're going to have um that vibe or energy that they're going to find something about you attractive.
Yeah.
It's like, but if nobody feels any of that because your ego is way too big, it's like, yeah, you can be attractive, but you can be this asshole. It's like, I'm sorry, but nobody likes you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, I wouldn't say losing friends. I would just say losing the fake ones
Yeah, I agree.
because the real friends will never leave,
Yeah.
regardless, even though we don't talk every day or so.
Mhm.
But it was very of, yeah, it was just, they were like, oh, it's like, don't get close or he's going to flirt with you and this and that. I'm like, I don't even like you. And it's like, first of all, it's like, you're not even my type.
Yeah.
Then they get hurt. I'm like,
They do. They get so
why
butthurt.
am I not your type? Because I feel like straight guys like, or I will say guys like when they get compliments from other guys.
It's
Same with
weird, but you're right.
same with women. Women love getting compliments from other women.
Yes.
But I think it's more harsh on a guy when another guy doesn't compliment you
Mhm.
or gives you an insult
And
when
I
it
think
comes
it's
to
funny
that.
when they start like fishing for the compliments. Like
Yes.
they start asking you questions like, oh, how's this? Or
I'm like,
like,
oh,
all right, cool, but that's not, I don't give a fuck. Like, stop
no.
already. But so then after high school, how was it?
Um, after middle school, after high school.
After high school.
Well, it wasn't after that. It was very open. Nothing really, like everybody already knew. My first thing was I'm gay. I have a boyfriend. People were accepting, others weren't. I'm like, you know what? If you don't accept, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
It's like you have your own problems to deal with. But overall, it was good after I came out.
So do you think that your depression got better after you came out?
It did get better when I came out, but there was those moments where I still felt like I was in a dark place
Yeah.
because depression is not something that will magically just
Yeah,
disappear.
absolutely.
And there's
Absolutely.
times where, I mean, even when I like, I'll be fine, and then depression just hits me
Yeah. Oh,
to the
100%. Yeah,
to
I
the
see
point
that.
where I don't want to go anywhere,
Yeah.
and I get social anxiety.
I have to drag you out of the house
You
and
know that I love talking to people,
yeah,
like just interacting, just having that like one-on-one conversations or group conversations.
yeah,
But getting that social anxiety, that's why I know something's really wrong.
yeah. And yeah, I think you've come a long way and you're starting to be more open
Yeah.
with me and you're more, hey babe, like I think I'm feeling depressed. Like I think you'll either tell me, hey, I think I need to hang out with Antonia, or I think we just need to stay in.
Yeah.
And it's it goes one of two ways where it's like, well, babe, like I think you kind of need to go out. Like let's go out. Let's do something to kind of distract your mind. And it's been a while since we've gone to like Charlie's or something like that. But typically, that's kind of what it comes to.
Not
To
Charlie's.
I think it kind of
Not
comes.
Charles.
I think it comes to that
Your
though, as like a
sisters.
last resort kind of a thing.
What part?
Just us going out to Charlie's or something like that.
That's, yeah. I mean, that's more of like if we're at brunch and we want to go out,
Yeah,
or if we need to escape and just like have fun,
yeah.
clear our minds.
But like I said, I mean, it's a last resort. It's not like
Yeah,
something that we're always gonna
it's
go
not a
to.
priority.
It's us hanging out with Antonia here at the house, or cooking, or going, and obviously I like to cook, so I'll make a whole
This
feast
cooking
for
is
all of us.
amazing.
Thank you. But I usually try to make like a feast for us, and you know, make like a little mukbang or whatever that we never upload, and
We'll
just
upload it to this one.
maybe. Um, but I think you've kind of come around a lot, and I'm always here for you, obviously,
Oh, thank you, my
and I love
love.
you too. So
You know
I
I'm
want
always here for you too.
to. I know.
Until you
I
get annoying, I'm gonna be like, I'm going to bed.
well, then I think it's important that people talk about mental health
Yes, and
because I mean, there's little things that trigger it for everybody.
yeah,
Like for me, one of the biggest things is like a work-life balance.
yes,
And I like to have that work-life balance with you, and we get to carpool to work together now, and we get to carpool back home and stuff. So that helps a lot.
and we get to vent when we're
Yeah,
having like a stressful
100%,
day
100%.
because we have like the best team ever.
And you know, I don't know if that was real or not. But
Fantastic, number one.
I think that helps us a lot.
No,
And it's funny because people always ask us, like, did you guys get tired of each other? You guys are together 24/7.
now honestly,
Honestly,
no.
I don't get tired of you.
I get like what do you call?
Separation anxiety.
Yes.
Like it feels so bad when he's off and I have to drive to work. I feel like it's wrong and I feel like I shouldn't be driving. And I feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why isn't he here with me?
Yeah.
But, I don't get tired of it. And I don't get tired of the conversations that we have. And, on our days off, I kind of think that we've learned to step away from work and just enjoy
Yeah.
our time.
We find random things to do. We get our
Yeah.
nails done,
Yeah, exactly.
pedicures, hair color, movies, go out to eat.
So for you though, what would be like a big mental health thing? So like mine's work-life balance. What would yours be?
I mean, I guess definitely just like, I don't know, honestly, because I mean, it could be anything. I don't know.
Would you say it's like camaraderie at work? Like your team being a team? Would you say it's like spending family time is important to you?
Well, I mean, definitely checking up on each other.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a number one priority.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though, like, even though they're your friends, honestly, or clients,
Mhm.
or a stranger, or if you see someone that's dealing with something, it never hurts to ask them
Oh,
if they're
absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. I'm always text my clients. I'm just
Yeah,
checking in on you, like seeing how you're doing, how your holiday was, how was your weekend.
because
And
remember,
that's how I get the most
yeah,
responses, is because I'm just being genuine with it.
because we work in retail,
I work in
and
sales.
of course, it's company wants us to push sales, this and that, but it's never about that.
Correct.
When I text my clients, I'm like, hey, I know we always talk about business, but how are you? How are you really? Like
Yeah.
personally?
And I think that takes the relationship to the next level
Yes.
because everyone has so many things going on in their life
I agree.
that sometimes they just need somebody else to talk to. And so, we're kind of like that outside person for them to talk to. So I think that, I think we both do a really good job at that.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the wine so far?
Honestly, I do recommend. It's really good. Definitely has it definitely has a lot of flavor. Um he knows how I feel about gulps. He still does it.
So I think this
Love the
one,
respect.
I think out of all of them, so far this one's probably the most dry.
Yes,
Um, this is probably my number two wine.
it's soothing.
Yes, so
It's
this is
very
my number
smooth.
two so far out of all the ones that we've had. I would say still the 1858 Merlot is probably still my favorite.
Yes.
Um, but definitely you can taste like the hint of chocolate and espresso, but it is definitely more fruity. You can taste the blackberry and the black cherry in it, but everything else is very, very faint. And this is actually I'm trying to get the year on it, guys. There's no year. So there's no year on it.
No, it's a newborn.
It is 14% alcohol, so I think it's still pretty good.
It really is.
Um, Honestly, I think I like this one better than the Jupiter.
Yes.
Um,
Jupiter, when it warmed up,
it
it
was
did
very
taste very
flower.
floral. Yeah,
So I'm excited for
very
next
flower.
week's. It is Oak Ridge and it is a Zinfandel. So I'm excited to try that one because I haven't really had a lot of Zinfandel wine. But it was one of Total Wine's top picks. I think it was our number one choice when we looked at it. So I'm
That's right.
excited for
Yes.
that. I'm excited for how this podcast is going.
No.
Um, but yeah, so do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
All right.
That's
Well, thank you so much for
joining me
joining
at
us
the
on Vino with the
Vino with the
Romeros.
Romeros. Oh my god, I almost
And
forgot the name.
and we're excited to have you here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.